Hi there, and welcome back to Straight Talk for Mental Health. We are KG and Associates, and I am Karen Goslin, and I am thrilled to have another guest with us today. Robbie Spier Miller is a hypnotist, and we are glad to have her today. And we want to dig around in that world of hypnosis and understand what is going on. How are the professionals providing hypnotism? And what are the benefits for that to our listeners? So we are going to just jump right in. Welcome, Robbie.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so glad to have you. So let's just talk about what you're doing. So, as a hypnotist, walk us through like a typical service you would provide.
The benefits of hypnosis are that a lot of what we do in our everyday life, the source of that comes from our subconscious mind. So we'd all like to believe that we think things through and we behave rationally, but the truth is that the root of what we do comes from a subconscious place, and our the job of our subconscious mind is to protect us from danger. That's its main responsibility. So, for example, if we do something and we survive, our subconscious mind believes it's a good thing to do for the same reason we don't forget how to swim in the middle of the lake, right? So, there are things we do that, thank God, our subconscious mind does that for us because it helps us to survive. But when it's something like somebody started smoking as a teenager because they wanted to connect with their peers and be part of the group, and then it becomes this habit that ends up hurting their health, there no longer is real survival value there, but the subconscious will continue to believe that. And so hypnosis is a way that we can communicate with the subconscious mind to help it get on board with doing what is really in our best interest now. And it goes beyond talking about it or thinking about it. We're getting beyond things like words or understanding and accessing that other part of our mind that actually controls a lot of what we do in our day-to-day life.
That's what a great introduction to that. This because we talk a lot about this with our clients, especially when there's been trauma or abuse or abandonment. There's neural pathways that form. And I'll often say your brain is trying to protect you. It just does too good of a job. But I love how you're connecting to it. It helped the survival at the time or the adaptation of what you wanted at that time, but then it just gets generalized and applied to other situations that it actually is maybe causing more harm or damage or sabotaging you in some way. So it doesn't work anymore. So you say going beyond words and thoughts. So tell us more about that.
Mhm. I have a colleague named Marion Wiest, and how she describes this, I think, is quite brilliant, where she talks about how with the old smartphones, you would have all these apps open and you didn't realize they were open on your smartphone, and your battery would drain really quickly and you didn't know why. And it's because these apps were draining it in the background. So if we look at it and say, if there are things operating that aren't serving us, but they're draining our energy, our focus, our emotions, it gets in the way of us doing the things we really want to do. So hypnosis helps clear that up.
Wow, what an analogy.
Yeah, I thought
Use
it was
that.
pretty brilliant. Yeah, so I'm stealing it from her.
I know. Why not? And now I'm going to steal it from you.
Yeah, awesome.
Because it's a great, it's the distraction or the energy drain or kind of going by misguided ideas or what we call in our world core beliefs. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's like we just keep doing something and we form a habit that, it goes into autopilot. We're not even like making that conscious decision at that time of, okay, I did that before, so I'm going to do it again. At some point, it kind of gets a life of its own, doesn't it? And then it just runs without us even trying.
That's right. Yeah. And the movie Clicked is a great example of this. So the premise of the movie is that the main character, he's a busy guy, he's a dad and an architect, and he starts wishing that he could fast forward through periods of his life because he's getting overwhelmed. And so this guy appears with this magical remote control that allows him to fast forward through parts of his life. But over time, he starts using it and then he can't control it anymore. It's happening so automatically and it ends up wrecking his life.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it's a really great movie to watch to just see, and it's funny and it's extreme, but an example of where this can go if we don't make those changes.
Yeah, it is a lot. In our world, we would say we bring it to the consciousness, right? So that we're making empowered decisions in the moment.
Mhm.
And so that's I want to look that movie up as well because it does. I think as humans, we do that. We do something that kind of works, and then we just keep doing it, and then we lose control of it. We just overdo it somehow because our brain is saying, "Yeah, that worked before. Do more of that." And
That's
somehow we
right.
lose the selection on that.
Yeah, and then we get mad at ourselves because we know it's in our best interest to do something else, but we're not able to actually do it. So, for example, I've seen many, many clients for weight loss who they know what to do. Sometimes they're like doctors or nutritionists, but they're overweight. And it's not a lack of knowledge or understanding, right? Or willpower. It's that there's a subconscious reason why they're wanting to hold on to their old habits that are creating the weight problem. And
Yes.
so we're really addressing that. So look at it kind of like the word banana, right? Like BANANA is nothing like the experience of an actual banana. A banana has a texture and a smell and a taste and a color and a shape and size. And so we're wanting to deal in life in that more real kind of way.
Yeah, that makes so much. You have so many analogies. This is incredible. You use a lot of imagery too, and I always say like a picture says 1,000 words, right? Because it just says so much in that moment. But I love what you're saying because we do end up, I call it our wounded self, that subconscious wounded self that will go for immediate gratification. And so
Mhm.
although knowledge can be power and information, can give us, can boost us up, it's not the whole picture, right? Because how are we going to overcome that desire for that immediate gratification at the moment? Even though we know and we have the information, we're driven by something much deeper.
Mhm.
And going after the root cause of what is driving us is ultimately, I think, what gives us those sustainable results that we're all looking for and needing, but we just get in our own way so easily.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So, what do clients come to hypnotists for? What are your typical, presenting issues?
Many people come for things like weight loss, stopping smoking, stress management, improving confidence, pain management. We need a doctor's referral for pain management to make sure the person has been properly diagnosed before we teach them how to distract themselves from the pain with hypnosis. And then people come for things like sports or academic performance, getting goals, business goals as well. It's really a way to learn how to skillfully use your mind to help you because hypnosis is happening all the time. It happens just like we're breathing. So when you watch a movie and you laugh when it's funny, or you find your mood change, or you cry when it's sad, you're responding to emotional suggestion, which is a hypnosis like state.
Mhm.
And advertising uses hypnosis everywhere. They spent billions of dollars researching what helps people make decisions and changes. And the answer is hypnosis. So if
Wow.
can you think of an ad that you remember from when you were a kid?
Yeah, it's like Alka-Seltzer, plop, plop, fizz, fizz.
Exactly. Oh, what a relief it is. And
Yeah,
it's probably been at least 4 decades since that's
since
been
I've
on the
seen it.
air.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how hypnosis works. It's repetition and fixation. And notice that commercial got people into their senses. There was a jingle, right? And they
Yeah.
had a visual that went
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
So there's a whole experience they're getting and will tend to hold on to things like that. So we're
Interesting.
helping use that part of our minds to help us because if we don't, it's still happening, right? Just like that, the phone with all the apps running in the background, the apps will keep running and we can pretend they're not, but they are. Or we can learn how to shut those ones down and open new ones that help us even more.
Yeah, that's a great. I'm particularly interested. I'm going to come back to this idea of pain management. We see a lot of clients who have chronic pain and illness. I'm a survivor of autoimmune issues, so I have a real passion. And I was actually just speaking with somebody yesterday about that whole, brain body connection and changing pathways for pain, and how we really need to, retrain our brain, because even though, the actual physical pain may no longer actually exist in those cells, our brain still overprotects us by thinking it is, or convincing us that it is. And so we can easily, sabotage our rehabilitation, really trying, having to break that brain pathway. But I want to go back, because I don't know if some of our listeners, because I know for me, I remember years ago, I think I was in high school. I think I told you this recently. A friend's mother had been smoking for years, and she went to a hypnotist. Now, that was probably like early 80s. And like my naive perception of hypnotism is like, what you see in, Vegas shows, right? Where they get people up on the audience, and they're, with the watch, and they're, waving it back and forth, and then they get into a hypnotic state, and then they make them do all kinds of silly things, right? And act like chickens and whatever it is. And then, they go back to their seats, and everybody's laughing at them, and they're going, I don't know, what happened? But that's kind of like the entertainment hypnotism. So how similar or different is it from what you do in your office with clients coming to you with some of these concerns?
So I do stage hypnosis myself. It is very cool and a lot of fun. And that it shows you what our subconscious minds are capable of when you have an experience like that. So in the office, we're doing a form of that is directed towards somebody's outcome. So when we're on stage, the outcome is to have a fun experience and entertain people. When we're in the office, the outcome is whatever the person wants to change in their life. So if their outcome is to lose weight, we're going to focus on that, and we're going to use hypnosis to help them go in that direction. So that would be, what we're doing. So we are, it's very customized. So we respond to whatever the client in front of us needs at whatever time we're seeing them. They change as they go through our program. And so we basically do whatever they need. So people do have to be sincere about making a change, and to be willing to follow instructions. I know some people sometimes see shows that and they're afraid of what they might do. Um, those are some common fears with hypnosis, but the truth is nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do. And at the office, our focus is on really helping people get results. So we're when the client comes in, their outcome is aligned with where we're focusing, because of course we want to help them get results too. So like, my belief is it's much scarier to keep the old situation that's hurting us than it is to be willing to follow somebody else's instructions so that our subconscious mind can discover a better way to handle life. So we screen people, we do a free consultation to see if this is a good fit for people. And when people are really sincere about changing, and we do many things to evaluate them at that time, then they're willing to go and do what it takes. And it's fun. Sometimes it can be uncomfortable because people are changing. So you've got to be willing to stay with it and take your change all the way to the end.
Mm.
So that's basically the approach we take, and really valuing people making the changes that they're asking for. Sometimes people can make excuses along the way or let themselves off the hook. So we do a lot of things to make sure people stay focused and that they're willing to follow through. Obviously, we can't do it for them. So each
Right,
person has to really want to be there. They
right.
have to really want the change. And then we stay with them and do what it takes to get them there.
Right. Yeah, our network signal was a little choppy there, but I think we got most of it out there. So I love the starting point of having that kind of like cohesive starting point for you and this and the client, that we all kind of like have this agreed upon platform almost, in terms of what we're trying to achieve together, and what the ultimate goal is to kind of align yourselves. And
Mhm.
then and then is it like a trance state that you have training in to help the clients get into while you're, I guess, and then once you're in that trance state, you can make some of those suggestions that you've already discussed fully with the client?
It can be. We do a lot of different types of hypnosis with people. So that one of them is getting them into a typical trance. So sometimes it can be more meditative, and other times we do things that are more interesting in terms of hypnotic phenomena that people experience. And the thing that matters most is that the person wants to get their outcome and they're willing to participate in whatever way they need to get there.
Yeah, I would
So,
imagine more than ever, like having that open mind, literally,
yeah.
in order to kind of connect with the process would be really, really critical. So you raised meditation. So let me just talk about that. Like, what is it similar? Is it different? What is the difference between hypnotism and meditation?
Meditation is a form of hypnosis. So if we were to hook you up to a brainwave machine when you were meditating or when you were in hypnosis, the brainwave state would be within a similar range. The difference really is that with hypnosis, we're using that state of mind to help you make changes. Often with meditation, it's to relax or to observe our emotions or what we feel in our body or to just be in the moment, which we can use hypnosis for. And I found that it tends to be a lot easier for most people to get into hypnosis than into meditation. So
Hmm.
I look at meditation as a very advanced skill that a lot of people struggle to be able to do. Hypnosis and being guided through it the way that we do tends to be easier for people to do.
Interesting. I honestly would have thought the opposite,
Right.
that meditation and the mindfulness practice is more conscious somehow, but like looks like while you're describing it's kind of flipped.
Hmm. Yeah.
Interesting,
Hmm.
interesting. Yeah, you're breaking some of our beliefs here. It's great. Yeah, and so, so let's break these down. I love how you kind of divided them up. So breaking habits. So for any of our listeners who maybe have tried, I mean, gosh, right, with smoking, there's a million options, right? And I think CAMH even now has their own smoke cessation program, and they've been running that for a while. And, so there's patches, there's gums, there's anti-anxiety medication. We, in our office, we apply more of a cognitive approach of trying to break the addiction cycle. And we do go after root causes, but those are some of the habits, whether it's about, binge eating or smoking or any other kind of repetitive, addictive, compulsive behavior is a good candidate for hypnotism, it sounds like.
Yeah. So one of the things that's important to know is that it depends on if you have a condition that's a diagnosed mental health problem, you really want to go to somebody who's a licensed psychologist or psychotherapist or psychiatrist, right? Depending on the severity and what you need. Um, I myself am a hypnotist, so I'm not trained in that way. So I see people who are functioning at a reasonably normal level where they don't have a diagnosis, but they would like to improve their lives. So that those would be the type of people who would come to see a hypnotist. There are people out there who are licensed track who are trained in hypnosis. We would like to see more of them trained in hypnosis than there are. I believe that the combination of the therapy background and hypnosis can help people a lot who need that kind of help. Having said that, Dan Bureau, who's the president of Master Hypnotist Society, which is the organization I'm a part of, and we follow that philosophy. So he's been a psychologist for over 30 years and worked with a ton of people and supervised other psychologists and searched the world over for the techniques that work best. And he's choosing to train people in the licensed track fields in hypnosis. And he's doing it because he sees that it's helping people more than a lot of the other things he's seen. And that a lot of the mental health challenges these days are actually not from a chemical issue or a physical root. It's actually a crisis of maturity.
Mm,
So when
interesting.
yeah, so when we're facing life and we don't get what we want, we these days more and more people don't have the maturity to move through that and to get where they need to go. They often end up having some kind of challenge in terms of, being burnt out or overwhelmed, and it can show up as a diagnosable condition. So Dan's belief and his observation is that the large majority of those, if people simply learned how to interact with life in a more resourceful way, that their problems would be way better.
Right.
So that's really the lens through which we look at helping people. So the in our culture in the last number of years, that the direction we've gone is to help people be comfortable and open about things like mental health issues, which of course is very important. My observation has been that sometimes people take that too far, where they become a victim of it. So people will say things like my anxiety, right? Or my ADHD, and they think it belongs to them and it defines who they are, instead of looking at it as a behavior that they can learn how to change. And it can be very seductive, because if it's not our fault, and fault is the wrong word, but if it's something that we have no control over, it can be a relief, because then we don't think it's our fault and we don't feel pressure to change it. So it can be very attractive to fall into the victim role. My experience has been that it really doesn't serve people to do that. Of course, if people need help from a mental health perspective, or they need medication, right? There are situations where people absolutely need that. And of course they should get it. And of course we all, care about them, and all of that's true. And there is I would suggest a significant segment of the population that really would do better to just learn how to be more resilient and skills to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That reminds us of a technique we call externalization, right? Because you're right. I think when people are struggling for a long period of time, they start to feel like they are the mental health issue. I am depression, or I am depressed. So I,
Mhm.
I always see it's a great benefit to separate that depression comes to you, or anxiety comes to you, and it's about what you want to do with that. So we change the relationship to whatever that issue is, to empower people to say you don't have to have that choice, right? There is other pieces that you can work on for yourself to actually separate from that entity or that force, whatever is coming to you. I really love what you're saying about maturation, because the work we do on wounded cells, it is that more immature part of ourselves. And that will get us into trouble. And the primary piece around not being able to delay immediate gratification, and buying into that heat of the moment reaction,
Mhm.
because it feels good, or if we convince ourselves that it's right. We call that stinky thinking. And we trick ourselves into believing things that aren't true. But I love how, you take a look at that. And I just want to say one more piece before I want to ask you about the sports performance as well. But the collaboration, right, between therapists and hypnotists. I'm certainly hearing more about it. I obviously met you, and I was curious. I hadn't, years ago when I first met you, I was like, this is interesting. And then I'm hearing more and more about it. And clients of mine are connecting with hypnotherapists, which I know you said earlier, before we jumped on the call, there is a difference. But I'm trying to be very creative in the work that I'm doing, because some of our deeper meditations that we do for healing deeper selves, and kind of accessing what you're calling like the resources and the resilience of the healthier self. And I'm starting to see more clients reaching for that combination, actually, of hypnotism and classic, psychodynamic theory, as we're kind of, working our way through what's happening with the wounded self. So it's a very interesting collaboration, and interesting to hear that, some classic therapists are also getting some training with hypnotism.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
an interesting overlap. So that's
Yeah.
great.
I would love to see that happening more and more. I think that's very beneficial, whether it's the therapist learning hypnosis and adding it to their skill set, or working in collaboration with the hypnotist. I think that that's really in the best interest of the client. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think there's more and more acceptance. I know years ago I had a student who was a social worker, And so she trained to be a hypnotist, and she said that she felt it was a therapist's obligation to learn how to use this, because she realized that it could help people in ways that the tools she had couldn't, and that it is an ethical obligation to help people use whatever is available to you to help people as much as you can. And she had a lot of resistance from the therapy community around that at that time. This was probably about, I'm going to say, 5 or 6 years ago. My
Yeah.
hope is that the view has changed. My hope, I'm not sure. But I would like to see more and more therapists be curious and open to what hypnosis
Yeah,
is.
yeah, because that's not that long ago, and I'm getting great feedback from my clients who are finding a way to combine it. And it's not part of my tool set yet, but yeah, it's an interesting thought because I think, yeah, we do have a responsibility to provide those skills or apply those skills with our clients towards a good end. So, but yeah, the feedback I'm getting so far from clients is that they are getting it. They are seeing the overlap. They're seeing how one complements the other. The feedback I'm getting is that clients are seeing the work that we're doing is helping with the hypnotism, and some of the breakthroughs that they're getting through the hypnotism is circling back and kind of helping solidify some of the work that we've been doing. So it's a cool relationship. So it's very timely that we're having this conversation. And yeah, I think we need to kind of open our minds up to, what can be helpful, and maybe not, one skill set fits all. We have to really be flexible.
Yes, I completely agree. And not everything is right for everybody.
That's
So
right.
we
Yeah.
want to just find what works.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go into that second piece that you talked about, sports performance. That's something I had no idea you did. So tell us more.
Yeah. So with things like sports performance, and really look at it like performance in general in life, right? So we could take sports as an example. When an athlete's really in the zone, right? In sports, they call it the zone, where somebody's just responding and they're bringing just the right amount of tension and they're taking everything in a way where it just comes together. And most people who've played sports have had at least glimmers of that in their experience. Other people, maybe if you've done art or music or some other achievement, most people have had some experience of that in their life. So with hypnosis, we can help people learn how to access that resource state and choose it so that when they're performing, whether it's in sports or in other areas, that they can be in that zone more and more.
Wow, this is like opening my brain here. I had no
You
right. I
play
mean,
tennis, right?
yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
tennis, and well, my one thing I said, and I don't know if this is the zone or not, but when I came back from a trip last year, that was very relaxing and very creative, and I came back and we were in the tennis championships, and it's almost like my tennis partner who I play with. Usually, she's more relaxed than I am on the court, but I came home and I was in the zone, Robbie, and I every time I went to hit the ball, I found my breath, and then I could be more intentional with where I actually hit the ball. And it's like I said to somebody recently, I said the ball was still coming across the net at the same speed as it was before, but all of a sudden I had time to breathe before I actually executed my shot, and we made it to the final. So that was great. So that's the zone, and there, it is that place where we perform better, whether we're creating or challenging a play of some kind. So this is great. It must be great coaching for clients to get that so that they can access that zone easier or more frequently to
Yeah.
actually like optimize their performance.
Yeah, and there's another great benefit for sports, which is that when, like, for example, for you with tennis, I'm sure you can imagine yourself hitting the ball the way you'd ideally like to hit the ball. Yes?
Yes,
But
yes.
it doesn't always happen that
That's
way.
right. That's right.
And when you're in hypnosis, your mind doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. So if you imagine yourself hitting the tennis ball just the way you want to when you're in hypnosis, then it becomes part of your neural pathway to hit the ball that way more. It happens faster and easier. So when you're in real life, it's a lot easier to do that.
Right. Wow. Interesting. That's great. We
Mhm.
just have a couple of minutes left. And if you just want to make a couple of comments as we wrap up here about pain management, as I mentioned earlier, it is a big part of the work that we do. I'm very passionate about this. And, the medical system is overloaded and not always the right answer either in terms of, seeing clients, and I'm sure you see them as well on pretty serious pharmacological products that are having all kinds of interfering side effects, may help with some,
Addictive.
yeah, addicted,
Yeah.
exactly,
Mhm.
and kind of maybe getting some interim relief, but actually doesn't go after root causes or break that pain pathway. So,
Mhm.
how are you helping clients who have that chronic pain?
So with pain management, there are really there are three main things to look at. One is that when we are perceiving pain, what happens is that our body sends a signal to our brain that says I'm in pain, and the brain interprets that signal and sends a signal back to that area of the body. So there's a feedback loop.
That's
And
right.
with hypnosis, what we can do is we can help the person when the signal gets sent to the brain to perceive that in a way that's more useful. So they might distract themselves, they might change their perception of that discomfort so that they can make themselves more comfortable. And then they're teaching themselves how to do that so that it happens easier and easier, right? So they're building a neural pathway that helps themselves make themselves more comfortable. The second aspect to pain management is that often when people are in pain, they hold a lot of tension around the pain, which makes the pain worse. So
Right.
with hypnosis, we can help them let go and learn to relax and learn how to surrender into whatever's happening in their life in general and what's happening in their body. Like I used hypnosis for pain management when I had both my children. I had them at home with in a tub with
Oh my
hypnosis
gosh.
and midwives and the whole deal. And and if you're holding on when that baby's coming out, the baby's not coming out as fast, right?
Right.
So being able
Wow.
to open and let go and relax is a huge benefit in
Yeah,
general, right?
that's
Not just with having a baby, but if we use that as a metaphor to being able to let go when we're in pain, I think
right.
that's
Because one is about redirecting the pathway. The other one is about the added pain that we experience with the pain itself that actually worsens the pain. So it's almost like the secondary level of pain. Yes.
That's right. And then the third aspect we look at is that sometimes, and this isn't always, but sometimes when people are in pain and really for anything they come for us to help with, um, we don't, whenever we're having an experience, often we're having some other benefit we're getting from it. So for example, let's say somebody's in pain, which is miserable, and of course they want to get rid of it, but maybe because of that, they don't have to go back to work and they can stay on disability. Or maybe because of it, their family spends more time with them,
Mm,
right? So we can get benefits from it accidentally, not on purpose, but
right.
subconsciously our mind is going, oh, this is a good thing and wants to hold on to it. So we really look at, are there things like that we need to help this person resolve? Because if we don't resolve them, we can teach them all the techniques to feel more comfortable and relaxed, and they're going to put it back because their subconscious mind will believe it's in their best interest to.
Right. I love the holistic approach of that and all the layers of it, right? So it's not just the neural pathway. It's about the additional pain we experience when we have pain. And then, yeah, all of the secondary or tertiary benefits that reinforces almost our relationship to the pain because we start to have, other positive experiences that almost kind of condition us to stay in that pain place. So that's great idea to have that holistic approach of always, of looking at the different layers that are involved. Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much, Robbie. That's been great information. I know I learned more than when you and I have talked previously. I learned more today in listening to you and hearing all of the different approaches and the target populations that you can serve. So, thank you again for coming on. And maybe for our listeners, why don't you let them know how they can contact you if they're interested in connecting?
Absolutely. So I do have a podcast called the Hypnosis Show Podcast, available on all your podcast platforms and on my website, which is hypnosistrainingcanada.com. I do a lot of group hypnosis training. So whether people want to change themselves or help their family or friends, or they're interested in doing this professionally, right? So it could be somebody who's a therapist who wants to learn hypnosis, or
Right.
it could be somebody who wants to become a hypnotist and build a business doing that. So many people come for classes. I personally see a very, very small number of one-on-one clients. I have a whole network of clinics that have trained in the Master Hypnotist Society system. There are many in the Greater Toronto area, which I know you're in.
Right.
So if you go to the hypnosistrainingcanada.com website, there is a directory of hypnosis clinics that you can connect with for help.
That's great. And if they want to connect directly with you, how would they find you?
So they can connect with me at hypnosistrainingcanada.com,
Okay,
or you can call 905-802-7955. That's my direct cell phone number,
that's
or
great.
800-971-5774 to reach the receptionist to get in touch with me.
Perfect. Thanks, Robbie. So, yeah, listeners out there, whether you're a therapist, helping professionals that want to add to your toolkit, or a client looking for service on any of those areas that you've described today. So, thank you for listening. We, again, are KG and Associates. You can reach us at karenrsw.com. My direct email at karenrsw@yahoo.ca, or our direct number 647-985-0633.